It's the 10th of December 2025, and I am so thrilled, so excited. I don't know why I'm excited today, but I think I come in good spirits. But then it's an exciting morning, and I am thrilled to be starting this exciting morning with you. This is the Idea Morning Digest here on Idea TV. Like we tell you, this is a place where you get major developments in science, technology, education, development, policy, entrepreneurship, business, name it, just like the flow is going. But then once again, it's top of the morning to you. We'll be bringing you wonderful stories, very, very interesting stories today we've got lined up. But then I just want you to follow with the conversations. Don't leave us alone. This conversation is for you and us. My name is Cynthia Basi, and I am not alone, never alone. And today I am with
Chidera, okay.
Good morning, Chidera.
Good morning. Well, it's good to have our viewers connected with us on today's edition of Idea Morning Digest. So, like you to stay connected, and then let's keep the gist alive today.
Yes, let's keep the gist alive, just like Chidera have said. You can join the conversations by sharing your insights, your opinions, your ideas to us at Idea TV on all our social media platforms, and of course via our email at ideatvlimited. And yes, we always tell you that we have our bulletin from Idea Universities of Interest, Idea Persons of Interest, Idea Foundations of Interest, Idea Artists and Entertainers of Interest, and so many of them. We even have 2 editions of Idea Persons of Interest and more editions of our bulletins. Of all of these editions that have already come out will be coming out next year. You don't want to miss that, but first of all, you have to catch up with the ones that are already existing first before you want to see what the new one or what we are up to with the new one. But then let's take a recap of the stories we'll be bringing your way this morning. Okay, the first story we'll be bringing to you this morning is that the U.S. congressman visits BENUE IDP camps, raises alarm over killings.
We'll also be looking at Rep. Summon Finance Budget Minister over poor budget implementation.
And thirdly, NAFDAC warns against circulation of unsafe cooking oils.
Then, Libya set to issue first oil and gas licenses in 18 years by
let's
early 2026.
Okay, let's go on this short break and we'll be back with these stories.
Number 3, sustainable tech and green computing. With data centers now consuming around 1 to 1.5% of the world's electricity, efficiency has become critical. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are racing to power their data centers with renewable energy, while chip makers like NVIDIA and AMD are optimizing for performance per watt. Carbon capture startups are using AI to scale up efficiency, and researchers are designing fully recyclable electronics. In 2024, Microsoft announced it had achieved 100% renewable energy coverage for its global operations. By 2026, green computing will no longer be optional. It'll be baked into how the tech industry operates.
Okay, good to know you're still there with us. This is still the Idea Morning Digest, and now first on our top story today is that the United States Congressman Riley Moore has visited camps of internally displaced persons in Benue State, where he says he met Christian families who fled violent attacks on their communities. Writing after the visit on Wednesday, Moore said survivors described brutal assaults that wiped out entire families and forced thousands to abandon their homes. He estimated that more than 600,000 displaced people are currently living in camps across the states. The congressman said he held meetings with chief traditional leaders and senior Catholic clerics, describing the violence as targeted attacks on ancestral farming communities. He called for stronger international attention and action, saying those affected should be able to live safely without fear. Moore said the accounts he heard during the visit would remain with him and should not be ignored by the global community. During his trip, Moore also met Nigeria's National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and other senior. Even after we see the news, we still go back to our homes, we still go back to our beds, and our eyes are not completely shut, closed. You know, we are not rest assured that we are safe. And the Congressman, the United States Congressman, is in Nigeria currently, and he has gone to IDP camps in Benue State. He has come back to say that what he saw shouldn't be ignored. I mean, he has come to see it for himself, because much of the talks were on, he's not here. You are not seeing firsthand. I know he has not witnessed firsthand, but he has come to see people that have been affected by this, crisis, by these terrorism attacks and, these banditry attacks and whatnot. I think that alone is very significant, that he has come to see this, and this is what he has to say. Now, we know that Riley Moore represents West Virginia, but, like many U.S. lawmakers, he sits on communities that influence policy. He also is a congressman, so he represents a community in the U.S. So if he comes out and say, we need human rights advocacy here, international security, must be applied at this point in time. He's calling the whole world this time around. He's not just saying U.S. are going to tackle it. It means that what he has seen is beyond control. It shook him. It's beyond his imagination, and he has walked into these internally displaced camps in Nigeria, and this is not just sightseeing. He's saying he has gathered narratives from people, from first hand, from the horse's mouth. How do they say it? From the horse's mouth, that shape most of what he has been hearing, and he has come there to know that it's even beyond what he has been hearing, what has sparked all of their reactions. And we need resolutions, we need immediate resolutions, and it's more than the Washington talks with Nigeria, beyond closed doors. This is in the open now. This is with the people whose lives have been affected. This is not, according to him, in as much as it is Christian persecution, he has even seen that even if the Nigerian government has persistently come out to say it's not a religious, but security concern is security concern. Security challenges is security challenges. So I do not know what is being described as violent attacks, but as long as people are being affected, groups have been affected, schools and whatnot are being affected, I think we need serious attention at this point in time. I think this is like an official call. This is like an official call, and I like that he has met with the Nigerian security advisor to Nuhu Ribadu, and to see what they are going to do about insecurity in Nigeria. What are the new measures being applied? Because we know that Nuhu has also built his reputation on anti-corruption Caesar, and now he sits at the center of security challenges in Nigeria, and also the security operational architecture, or the system in which we are going to carry out, to curb this or curtail this situation as much as we can. So I'm just saying that Nigeria we need that partnership at this point in time. We need that much support at this point in time. International bodies cannot be this concerned, and we have, they come all the way here, and they have seen for themselves that this narrative is not just narrative that people are trying to create. It is narrative beyond their control. It is what is happening to real people. These are real lives affected. I mean, it's affecting livelihood. It's affecting livelihood.
Yes, seriously, this story is really wild. Because come to think of it, it has gotten to the extent that foreigners, imagine the congressman being the one talking about the whole thing, that the whole insecurity issues that is happening in Nigeria. And then imagine the figure, if I'm getting it right, 6,000 people in the IDP. You can imagine how huge that figure is. Seriously, I just think, since our voices are not heard, because we keep crying, we keep disturbing, we keep nagging, we keep trying our best possible ways for the government to listen to us, and then it seems like it's not working. And then at this point, why is that the government is focused on clarifying the foreigners or the world that it is not about Christians alone? Both religions are affected. Is that what we are supposed to be talking about at this point? That is not what we are supposed to be talking about at this point. What we are supposed to be talking about is the solution, how to put all of this to stop, and not clarifying the fact that both Muslims and Christians are being affected. So, at this point, I just think our government needs to do better. They really need to do better on this insecurity issue, because it has lasted for months. since last month.
Since last month.
We've been talking about insecurity back to back, and it keeps getting worse. And then if we just want to breathe a little, they'll not say, just like yesterday, we spoke about 100 people that were freed from those 315 that were abducted. You can imagine, so they are releasing people batch by batch, but it has not stopped the insecurity issues in Nigeria. And then
we are there.
Exactly. And now you really think it's just where people are much that they are attacking. Places are no longer safe. Even in your room, you are no longer safe. It's not just where they have so much crowd, not just in beer parlor, not just in schools now, not just in church. Sleeping in my house, I have to be waking up from time to time, even if the weather is too hot. I have to close the window, lock the door, lock everywhere because of this insecurity issue. Now we are not even afraid of armed robbers again. It's now bandits, this and that. This story, it is long overdue. I just think our government should help us find a solution. They should strategize. These terrorists, they have their strategies that is working well for them. So how is it that up till now,
working well?
Yes, it's working for them.
How is it that
so how is it that till now we cannot adopt a strategy that can work for us, and we don't want to partner with people that will help us stop this whole insecurity issue? It is really annoying for real. So I think, do you have any other thing to say, or should we move to our next story? Okay. So Nigeria's House of Representatives has summoned the Minister of Finance, Wole Soyinka, and the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, over what lawmakers described as poor implementation of the 2024 and 2025 federal budgets, particularly capital projects. The lawmakers also met with the Accountant General of the Federation and the head of the Federal Inland Revenue Service during a closed-door session on Tuesday. Members have expressed frustration that contractors have not been paid for projects already executed, warning that this delays development and undermines public confidence. Following the meeting, the House resolved not to consider the 2026 appropriation bill until outstanding payments from previous budget cycle are cleared. The temporarily suspended legislative work in projects. Lawmakers says the situation is embarrassing and unsustainable, with some contractors reportedly taking loans to finance government projects. While assurances were given that payments would improve, legislators insist that full and timely budget implementation is essential for economic stability, infrastructural delivery, and restoring trust in government spending. So this is it. I think this story is a very serious one. When lawmakers start summoning people and then asking questions about how the budgets that were released are being handled, how they are used. And I think this is a very serious matter, because when you look around, you check our roads, you check our hospitals, you check our federal schools, most of them are nothing to write home about. The equipment, the utilities, especially in the hospitals, you just shake your head and say, is this really a government hospital? Is this really a federal hospital? You ask yourself those questions. Talking about the roads, federal roads, you'll be walking on the road or you'll be driving, you hear people saying, see how government road be. You just hear it in a taxi, you just hear people discussing about road, and then the major topic there is, and now government road be this. So you can imagine all that. So I think this is kind of it is good that the House of Reps or the lawmakers have come out, they have noticed that things are not really going as it should go, and then they are asking for proper implementation of how the budgets that are being released, how they are used. So imagine that the issue has gotten worse to the extent that they now borrow money to pay contractors or people that are working and all of that. It has gotten that bad. So I think with this decision, at least, maybe there'll be proper use of the budget that has been released, talking about 2024 and 2025 budgets that are not properly used, the roads, hospitals, and many of them that are not put in place. And from this story that you saw, so that they are not ready to release or look into 2026 budgets if nothing is being done, if no proper explanation is given on how the previous budgets, the previous money that was released is being used. So I think it is a good step. And then the fact that we need to be, or the people who are in charge, to be careful about how they handle the budgets. So
I think the lawmakers, this is a very this is a necessary step and a very good step that lawmakers are taking, coming out to. First of all, it's more like an accountability measure, first of all, and they're coming out to say we can't keep selling our hopes when the promises of yesterdays remain unkept or
unfulfilled,
unpaid or unfulfilled. I mean, it's a serious problem here, and the Minister of Budget, Bagodu, and the Minister of Finance need to come out and account for cash flow management. How have these monies been spent? Let's even try to decode this. You have explained it very well. When it comes to capital project, we're talking about roads, we're talking about bridges, we're talking about hospitals, we're talking about power infrastructure. I mean, I don't even want to talk about power infrastructure. How many of these can citizens say we have actually, how many of these can citizens actually touch and point to and say
this has been fully achieved?
Fully achieved. We have done something, they have done something to these things, and we are enjoying roads, we are enjoying power supply, we are enjoying some of all of these basic amenities. We are even, let's just call them basic amenities. I mean, when all of these basic amenities gets underfunded, that shows that our budget is not, we are not exercising budget well. Then why do we have budget rolled out? So I like it may sound confrontational, but I like the response the lawmakers are giving, that no consideration of the 2026 budget until all debts are cleared, and that is the way to go. Let's see what we have spent last year. Let's run evaluation of the expenditure. If nothing has been, if we cannot account for this year's budget, what we use them for, what we use the monies for, then let us bring those monies first and then use them to exercise what do they call them, next year 2026 spendings. So I feel like this is a very necessary, like I said, although confrontational, but this is a necessary step, a very strong response to how to accountability and to transparency and how our monies are being spent. If lawmakers themselves say the system is embarrassing and unsustainable, you can imagine what you and I, citizens, will talk. I mean, these are the people who are exactly holding the purse strings and who, account for all of these project failures or project successes. So you can imagine when they come out to say, we don't understand what went on with this year's budget. We don't understand how it was spent. What do we citizens have to say about this? Because first of all, it must translate in our lives, and obviously it is not translating in our reality. So it only shows that budget was mismanaged, and we cannot start bringing another budget for 2026 when we have not spent this year's budget properly. Let's bring out those funds. Let's see where they are hiding. What have they been used for? Bring them out. If we cannot account for them, then we must exercise this year's budget for next year's budget plans. I think that's the only way to go. But I like this accountability step that the lawmakers are coming out to take. I mean, I'm proud of them for this. Let me start with that. First of all, for discovering it, I think it's a good step. But then let us move to the next story we have here. Nigerian Foods and Drug Regulator NAFDAC has issued a public warning over the widespread circulation of substandard and unregistered cooking oils in the country. The agency says brands including OK, Fino, Super Delicious and La Jonique are being illegally distributed across major cities such as Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Onitsha, Aba, and Warri. NAFDAC says the oils have no identifiable manufacturers or registration numbers, and their sources, production processes, and safety standards remain unknown. According to the agency, market surveillance revealed that these products are smuggled into Nigeria and stored in warehouses to support an illegal distribution network, posing serious risks to public health. The agency warned that consumption of such oils may expose Nigerians to harmful chemical residues and degraded fats linked to long-term illnesses, including heart and liver diseases. NAFDAC is urging importers, traders, and consumers to exercise vigilance, verify product registration, and report suspected unsafe products through its offices, hotline, or official reporting platforms. This is very disturbing too. I can say it's disturbing because NAFDAC is coming out to warn Nigerians about the circulation of unregistered and potentially dangerous cooking oils. Brands like, I'm going to call them out loud so that people take note. Oki, that's OKI, Fino, FINO, Super Delicious, like DELICIEX, and Lajonique. And here's why this is very serious. It's very serious because cooking oil, goes into everything. We use it for almost everything. Rice, soups, we use it for frying. Everything we eat, especially those that even used to eat on the street, everything we eat, and it's not a luxury item. This is something we use on a daily. This is our daily consumption, and NAFDAC is coming out to say these oils have no identifiable, manufacturers, no registration numbers, no safety trail. I mean, in terms, nobody knows what's inside them. We don't know what we are taking in. And the agency is saying that many of these products are smuggled, according to them, and they are being stored quietly in corners in warehouses and then distributed across major markets in especially major cities like Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano, Onitsha, Aba, and basically the arteries of Nigeria's food supply. These are the places that you get. These are the most populated places in Nigeria. These are where where the lifebloods of Nigerians are. Most Nigerians are, and the health risks of this, we cannot leave it aside. It's not abstract in this case. Degraded fats, we know what that can do to our body, what that can do to our health. All of these chemical residues and whatnot, all this long-term, they exposes us to so many long-term diseases like heart diseases, liver damage, so many illnesses that don't show up immediately, but slowly and in time they take away our lives. They shorten our lifespan, but you will just be there and you'll be feeling one sort of symptoms on discomfort or the other, and you will be thinking it's just headache, and then you run to the nearest maybe pharmacy and get like a painkiller, and they're like, okay, it's headache, it's this, because for Nigerians it's always headache and that, but you don't know that it may be what we've been eating. I've been seeing the rise of cancer amongst Nigerians, and it's really disturbing. This could be some of the reasons, this could be some of the causes, and this is also an issue of enforcement here, because when we talk about the health risks, we cannot leave enforcement and also consumer awareness. I like, first of all, that NAFDAC has been doing a lot since the beginning of this year, and this is why they should begin to, and they've also been issuing warnings. They've come out with different illegal drugs, counterfeit foods and drug supplies and whatnot, and we know that market thrives on demand, so there should be stricter. I know they have been putting out one, but there should be stricter warnings, because it is what is cheap that people want to go for. So there should be stricter warnings. People should understand that these are products that are not approved to enter the market, and when we talk about demand and supply, Nigeria is not doing so well when it comes to our economy, and we know poverty somehow still thrives in this part of the world. And when poverty meets weak regulation, when poverty meets unsafe products, that are, because most of these unsafe products, quote me and unquote me, they are cheap. So what do you expect? Most of these unsafe products will flourish in these areas, will flourish in these places. So beyond the warnings that NAFDAC have been giving, we want to know how many Nigerians even know what a NAFDAC registration number looks like. That's another thing. Let there be stricter warnings, number one. I'm not saying we should leave out warnings completely, but then there should be other awareness.
What else we are going to trust? And this is very risky to our health. You just go to the markets, you buy things that you think you trust, you buy things that you see that has label, they have name and all of that. But then I think we need to do more as humans, as individuals, by checking the dates, expiry dates, NAFDAC number and all of that. We need to help ourselves in that aspect. You also mentioned about poverty. Yes, if I cannot afford the products that are NAFDAC approved, like I will go for the cheaper ones. And sometimes these cheaper products, they even look attractive. They are not just cheap, they look attractive, and it looks like it works for us as well. But then the other side, the bad side, is the effect it will give us, and slowly we just start seeing all those things, and before you know it, we call it health issue, we call it this. Some people might even call it spiritual problem, but we don't know where this is coming from. Again, I don't know regulatory bodies that are in charge of checking all the things that are being imported into this country. Like, why is there space for smuggling? How? I'm still wondering. I don't know people that are in charge of checking things that are coming in and out of this country. Why is it that people are confidently, and then the thing is coming in huge amounts? So how is it that they are confidently smuggling things that are not NAFDAC approved?
This product may not even be, small good as they may think. Some of them may be produced in people's backyards. Exactly. Who knows? I'm just saying. Well, that's another point. It's true, actually. But then we just need to be careful. And then there should also be this one is a public awareness though. So I think, and let us know, not like you mentioned, not everybody knows where they can even find NAFDAC number on products, especially on oil. I cannot remember the last time I bought oil from the market, and then I start checking for NAFDAC number. Regulation and subsidy too for the prices of those things that are approved. So
when things are cheap, afford them, and they are NAFDAC proven, like we would definitely buy. But when the other way around is cheaper, because of poverty,
what do you leave us with? We'll go for the other alternative.
We have no choice than to go for
But this is not to say we are telling people to go for what will kill them.
So let's just be cautious.
Yes, very important.
Let's just be cautious of what to buy from the market. So I think that will lead us to our next story. Libya is preparing to award its first oil and gas exploration licenses in nearly 2 decades, with the National Oil Corporation announcing that selected companies will be reviewed between February and March 2026. The tender, launched in 2024, covers about 20 onshore and offshore blocks and includes major international companies among the pre-qualified bidders. The move marks a significant step for a sector long starred by political division and instability. With an estimated 48.4 billion barrels of proven crude reserves, the largest in Africa, Libya hopes the new concessions will attract investment for seismic studies, exploration, drilling, and broader development of its energy resources. Current production stands at around 1.4 million barrels per day, but authorities are targeting a rise to 1.6 million barrels per day by the end of 2026, restoring outputs to pre-2011 levels. Recent discoveries in the Satay and Gadmis basins have further lifted expectations for meeting the goals. Achieving these targets will depend heavily on investment inflows, as oil and gas remain the backbone of Libya's economy. In 2024, hydrocarbons accounted for roughly 68% of GDP, 97% of exports, and 90% of government revenue. Officials says the completion of this licensing round is central to attracting new partners, strengthening production capacity, and stabilizing the sector after years of disruption. Well, I like the fact that Libya is trying to rebuild their major economic source. I like the fact that despite the political crisis that they had back in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, they're trying to rebuild their oil sector, and they're seeking for partnership. I'm not just seeing the parts where they are going to reward the major people who are going to participate in stuff like this in the coming year. So I like the fact that they are trying to build their what's their major source of income. Yes, I like that fact. And then this is also going to create kind of job creation. Yes, to bring job creation, boosting their production, their economy, and so on. I think I truly like this story. I mean, after 2 decades of being stagnant in this area due to political instability and all of that, I like the fact that they're trying to rebuild things. Yes.
18 years is a very long time, and that alone tells you how, like you've rightfully mentioned, how long political instability can, completely or to an extent halt or freeze a country's economy. And this is the obvious case here with Libya. And we're moving to the brighter part of this story is we know that Libya holds like 48.4 billion barrels of proven oils, and that is the largest in Africa. So I'm just looking at the brighter sides of what is going to, and according to them is about 20 blocks onshore and offshore. I'm looking at the brighter side of what is going to bring to the table for the African region, and what is going to bring to the dynamics is going to bring to OPEC. And Nigeria, we are still on the cross. We are still trying to balance it. Even if Dangote is coming out to promise Nigerians, I hold that as a promise that next year we are going to do. He's going to, Nigerians are going to stop crying over fuel prices and the instability in fuel prices and the fluctuations, with fuel prices. But then things like this gives me hope that because Nigeria is a part of the OPEC, and if Libya stabilizes oil production, that's like a win for global impact supply, a win for regional energy prices too. It means that the dynamics in the OPEC, even prices for oil globally is going to affect it. It's going to come down to an extent, at least at reasonable rates, and then even Nigeria is going to enjoy all of these things but then all of these things will not thrive where security is not guaranteed. I think this security issue is a problem for Africa. It's a very serious problem for Africa because investors are watching all of these security issues and challenges and whatnot. And what investors want is security guarantees. And where there is no security guaranteed, where there is no stability guaranteed, investors will not want to come in there. And they also need all of those legal protections. They need all of those, political unity, political balance, and all those. And without all of these things, licenses becomes more like, as we used to call them, work on paper, be paper on work. How do you people used to call it? Paperwork and promises and whatnot. Yes, on paper. So, but I just feel like this signals good hope, big hope. And but it is a test for Libya to if the country can rebuild that trust in its institutions and its people before rebuilding their production sector. But it's a good one at the end of the day. But this brings us to the end of the news review segment of the Idea Morning Digest, because we are going to bring you on with the discussion segment. But before that, let's take the recap. So we brought you news that U.S. Congressman visit BENUE, IDP camps, raises alarm over killings. We also brought to you news that reps summon finance budget ministers over poor budget implementation. And then NAFDAC once again circulation of unsafe cooking oils. And lastly, Libya sets to issue first oil and gas licenses in 18 years by early 2026. And that's it with this segment. We go on a quick break and we come back with the discussion segment. Stay with us.
Machine customers. Machine customers are AI systems that can make autonomous purchasing decisions on behalf of businesses or individuals. These systems analyze data, predict needs, and place orders without human intervention. For example, AI-powered chatbots can reorder
truly deserve protection. All truly deserves the protection of the states. And a viral video has reignited this debate about Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka publicly questioning what he describes as an excessive security escort attached to the president's son, Seyi Tinubu. According to Soyinka, the scale of the production raised troubling questions about fairness, about priorities, about the use of public security resources at a time when insecurity remains a daily reality for millions of Nigeria. So let's look at this video and hear what he has to say. Let's hear from the horse's mouth so we can get a full perspective or glimpse of.
Tinubu didn't have to send the Air Force and the military to deal with this particular insurrection, this threat to our own sense of security and equilibrium. No, there are easier ways of doing it. Let me tell you where Tinubu should have looked for forces to quell that insurrection. Right here in Lagos. Right here. Or in Abuja, perhaps, I don't know. But there was no need to call the military or the Air Force. I'll tell you what happened. On one of my home visits, this about 2 months ago, I was coming out of a hotel and I saw what looked like a film set. And I said, oh, they're shooting a film. That was on the grounds of this hotel. And a young man detached himself from the actors, came over and greeted me, very polite, very nice young man. And I said, are you shooting somebody? I said, I'm just joking. Are you shooting a film? He said, no. And I looked around. There was nearly a whole battalion occupying that, the grounds of that hotel, in Ikoyi, right here. So I got back in my car and I asked the driver who that young man was. And he told me. And I saw this SWAT team, a mixture. They were at least heavily armed, at least some 15 or so heavily armed to the teeth security personnel. Looked sufficient to take over a small country, neighboring city like BENUE. And I think the next time, the president should just call and say, Seyi, go and quell the rebellion over there. I was so astonished that I started looking for the National Security Advisor. I said, track him down for me. I think they got him somewhere in Paris, but I was with the president. He was at a meeting. And I said, I've just seen something I can't believe, I don't understand. And I described the scene to him. I said, you mean that a child of the head of state goes around with an army for his protection or whatever? I couldn't believe it. Later on, I did some investigative journalism. And I inquired, and I found that apparently this is how this young man goes around with his battalion, these heavy armed soldiers. Of course, the road was cleared before his car went out. I stayed until it seemed he was leaving. So next time there's an insurrection, I think the president should just call that young man and say, go and put down those stupid people there. You have enough troops under your command, so don't bother me with all these security issues any longer. Let's not overdo things. This is not the first country that has a head of state. It's not the first country whose head of state has families. And I think children should know their place. They are not potentates. They're not heads of state. And the security architecture of a nation like this suffers some injury and alienation when we see such a heavy devotion of security to one young individual. You'll excuse me, but I'm in and out most of the time. And this place is named after me. It's my center. So if I go off the immediate subject of our ward, I hope you'll excuse me for taking possession.
Chidera, that's a very serious talk, and one that has been of much concern to. Since I was growing up, I think we've been talking and debating about this, if convoy should, line up and follow even heads of states, or even just one person, or even a governor, and now we are just talking about a son to the head of a state, to the head of a country. Beyond individual, beyond the individual involved, this conversation it cuts deeper into different things. It cuts deep into the talk about governance, how our governance ethics functions. It cuts into different things, all of those inherited power, because your father is a head of state, or your father is a governor, or your father is one big man, as we call it in Nigeria, in quotes, big man, or one elite, or one very, very influential person in the society. Then you have to walk around with, I cannot even, like, the security will be from, I was coming to work one day, and then they had to stop us. I don't know who was passing, but a big man, like they call it in Nigeria, was passing, and then we were stopped. We had to wait, and I ran late for work that day, because we had to wait for the long line of cars to pass before, I think the person was going to the airport. So we had to wait for those cars to pass, and it took close to 30 minutes, if I am not mistaken, that day, close to 30 minutes, and we waited for that long before everybody started moving to where, they were going to. I think this message sends a lot of, it holds deep context. It sends to a nation battling with kidnapping, insecurity. We are battling with widespread fear, Chidera, at this point in time. And we are talking about how, security agents are not properly deployed to all of these affected communities and societies. Because if there were security persons, I was listening to the show with you and Mary, and remember when one of you talked about how is it that they just told 315 persons to come, follow us and enter this car, and that was how they were kidnapped. Where are the security persons in place? Where were they? That means there are no security. I shared on the Idea Money Digest one time that a village, I know of a village that do not have a police station in that village in this time, in 2025. So I feel like this is not just about convoy. This is not just about what leadership should look like, or protection, or who security serves. It's more about how do we build. We always talk about trust in Nigeria, and we tend to downplay it, but trust is a big thing. How trust is built, or how trust is eroded in this democracy, and some of these things like this, when they play out, we see that it leaves us with little trust in our system, in our government, in our leadership, in our leaders. Talking about it, I'm seeing what Professor Wole Soyinka has come out to say. His concern is very clear here. This country is overstretched at this point in time. We are stretched thin with insecurity issues. We can't justify concentrating significant state protection around unelected individuals. We can't, we can't. Because of what? No, he's the president's son, so that is why he must walk around with, this long line of security personnel. Simply because of what? proximity of power? Is it because of that? This is the son of the same president that came out and withdrew VIPs from withdrew security agents, police especially, from VIPs, and said instead the NSCDC should go instead, and then they should go for retraining, and all of these police people should be deployed, up to 11,000 if I'm not mistaken, should be deployed to different communities. So his son is not included in this case. Is that what we are saying? I mean, Prof has come out to say, Professor Wole Soyinka have come out to say, he has argued a lot of things, that children of leaders must not inherit architecture of state authority. You are not a president. We can allow that for the president to an extent, even if we are still contesting that. But we cannot allow that for a president's son. What political office do you have?
Exactly.
You just only have political of other people's life. We need those amounts of security agents stationed in people's communities and villages. Chidera, I'm so